Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Lauren Neustadter, an Emmy nominee and the executive producer of Amazon's Daisy Jones and the Six. Lauren, I'm so happy that you were nominated for Daisy Jones. It's so great. What did it mean, I guess, just to start, to get a nomination for this show, which I know, like, obviously you spent so much time, like, shepherding. What did it mean to get this nomination?
It meant the world to me. I have to say, this show is literally my child. My husband created it and we've worked together on it. I mean, this has been a 6-year journey. So this, I mean, just to get that validation from our peers, to see it, we sat there and we were watching the nominations announced, and I just remember screaming so loud. And it was just this feeling of, oh my goodness, look what we did. I feel like it's the song "Look at Us Now." But it was just an unbelievable moment. And when you talk about dreams come true, to get to share that with my husband, an absolute dream come true.
What is it like for you guys? I mean, on this, or just like, what was that working relationship like? Obviously, and like, how did you balance that, like being married and also working on the show, I guess?
I think we are such a good team. And it was, we're each other's opposites in so many ways and so complementary to one another. I think he has this unbelievable gift as a writer that I could only dream of having. And so I think the story and the dialogue and all of those puzzle pieces are so clear to him from the creative side. And I really love taking all of the puzzle pieces and the vision and then helping to put it all together and bring it to life. And I love the hustle, and I'm not afraid of the hard conversation. And I just love to go, go, go. So I think, we wound up loving being a team, and it was so incredible to get to be here in Los Angeles, going to all of those incredible locations where we shot and seeing the Sunset Strip being taken back to the 70s. It actually was his birthday night when we were shooting exteriors, like the scene where Teddy tells the Six that they're going to record an album, and they sort of like all rush him right outside of the whiskey. That was Scott's birthday, and the band sang him happy birthday. And it was just, I mean, we all became a family, and the fact that we got to do this together and make this show that means so much to all of us is really extraordinary.
It's great. I was reading an interview you did, I think, recently, and you guys were talking about how a lot of people were obviously, it was very competitive, right? For this novel. It's such a great novel, Taylor Jenkins Reid's book and stuff.
Very.
And one of the things that I think you said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the separation maybe for you guys was a lot of people wanted to make it into a movie. And like you guys kind of saw the value of it being a limited series. And I really like that, because I feel like a lot of times I'll watch limited series and they feel like movies that have been stretched. But this felt like a real limited series that was like destined to be that and conceived as that from the start. And I guess like why did you think it would be so valuable to make it as a limited series rather than like a movie, I guess?
So Scott is the one who read the book first, and he was very clear. And interestingly, he really writes movies. Like that's his thing, right? And he's done all of these adaptations, but he's done so many features. And when he read this manuscript, he fell madly in love with it. But he was very clear that you would have to cut way too much out of it if you wanted to turn it into a 3-act structure. And he was like, I'm in love with these characters. I love this book. We have to honor this book. And the way to honor it is to bring it to life in an episodic form. And he actually initially broke it out into 13 episodes. So when we were having the conversation, Reese and so Scott read it first. He flagged it for me. I started reading it. He had finished it by the time I got home. He reads very quickly, which I do not. But he had finished it by the time we had dinner. We talked about it through dinner. We put our kids to sleep. I started reading it. I read it well into the night. I emailed Reese because it was right around July 4th and she was on vacation. And I said, I know you're on vacation and I'm so sorry to bother you, but could you take your iPad to the beach with you? We've been working together for 2 months at this point. And I just said, I think you're going to love this book. I need you to start reading it because it's going to be so competitive. And if you love it, we have to go for it with everything we've got. So to her credit, because she was on Eastern time, by the time I woke up, she was like, I'm obsessed with this book. What do we have to do? So the 3 of us wound up getting on the phone, really talking about what is the best way to honor this book and bring this book to life. It was so clear to all of us that episodes were the best way to do it. And so that was the moment that we sort of went after it with our whole hearts and we were so lucky to win it. But it was very, very interesting because there were many people that wanted it, and all of them wanted to make it a movie.
Yeah. And I just don't think it, like you said, like it would have been too truncated maybe or whatever. The other thing I love, and I think this is general true for like all the Hello Sunshine stuff, but it's like, it feels like it's TV made for people who have watched and liked TV, which I just think I appreciate as a viewer. And I guess like, yeah, like are you, and just hearing you talk about it just here briefly, like I could tell your enthusiasm for this and like just in general, I guess like, is that something you're always thinking about? Like, are you thinking of yourself as like the prime viewer, let's say, of this, and like making like a show that is good that you would like, and that in theory, like a lot of people would then like?
First of all, I would like to stop and say thank you, because I feel like that's the greatest compliment, that you feel like we make TV for and movies for people who love TV and movies, because that is what we're doing. I mean, I think we love this art form. I feel so blessed that I get to spend my days bringing these gorgeous stories to life on television, on the big screen, you know, wherever people like to watch them. I feel like it is the ultimate privilege that I get to do the job that I do. But yes, I think that both Reese and I and our amazing, amazing team at Hello Sunshine come as fans first, right? We love to watch, we love to read, and then the ultimate is when we actually read something and fall in love with it, and then we get to bring it to life so that others can watch and enjoy it. But I think, you know, we talk about it, Hello Sunshine, that the very first question that we ask ourselves when we read something, whether it's a book or a proposal or a script, or, you know, it's a pitch that we're evaluating, like, do we really love this? And if the answer is yes, then we go after it with everything we've got. But if we don't really love it, then we almost want the project to find the person that really does, because I think that's, if you're making it as a fan, you're going to deliver the best experience for the future fans, right? So I just think we always definitely approach material as fans first.
You said, you mentioned something before about how like Scott loves and is like, you know, very great at storytelling stuff, and you were like the logistics and like as like really getting in there on a producer. We talked before this, but I've gotten to talk to a lot of people involved with the show, and at least more than one person, certainly like Nzinga Stewart, who directed the finale and many episodes.
Oh, we love Nzinga, yeah.
And she was saying like how you were talking about this project, I think when she was doing from scratch with like Hello Sunshine, and I think Frankie Pine, who's music supervisor, incredible, and a nominee, also said something similar. Like, and you seemingly like work with a lot of the same people in like over and over again. And I guess, are you like kind of always thinking of like, or I guess with this show, were you like thinking of going through like thinking of people you've worked with in the past and be like, they'd be perfect for this and why? And are you kind of always thinking like that to build like maybe an Avengers type dream team to put this project together, I guess?
We try to build Avengers dream teams for every project that we do. And I think one of the amazing things about being part of making film and television shows is there is this community, right? It's a team sport. And so you have these unbelievable individuals that you're working with. And when you realize that someone is extraordinary, you kind of just want to keep working with them forever. So this was an Avengers dream team. And I can go through, you've interviewed so many of these people. I met both Denise Wingate and Checo, our DP, through Mike Nelson, who was our producer on the ground, helping us put all of the details together. I actually wound up bringing Jess Kender with us. She had worked with us on Little Fires Everywhere, and she went on to also work with us on Tiny Beautiful Thing. Rebecca, who walked hell, who did our makeup, who was Emmy nominated as well, worked with us on Truth Be Told. So I invited her to come with us. Marianne Hennings, who I saw that you interviewed, who was our department head for hair. She worked with us on Crawdads. I mean, it's really an unbelievable thing how this group has sort of moved with us. Frankie, we met through Will Graham on Daisy Jones and the Six, and then Frankie went on to work with us on The Last Thing He Told Me, and also From Scratch. So it is definitely, you know, it's a joy to meet all of these talented artists, and then it's a privilege to get to continue to work with them. When one project is over, we only hope that they'll be available and interested, and we'll get to work with them again and again.
Do you have like for this, what was, I mean, like obviously there were so many challenges. Certainly I've read about them, and I think you've talked about them in other interviews about like obviously like, you know, the long delay for COVID, doing a show about like sex, drugs, and rock and roll during the coronavirus pandemic, all these challenges. I guess for you, like what was, as like producing wise, what was the biggest challenge, the thing that kept you up at night most nights and that you were so glad ended up paying off and working?
I mean, I will say the epic scale of this show at a moment when COVID was really sort of defining every moment and every move we made was the biggest challenge, right? That we were shooting these massive concert sequences, but there was a maximum number of background actors that we could have participating. So I remember Frankie, our music supervisor, she would go and she would like amp up the crowd, but we would be performing in an arena and the crowd was about 250 people, right? And we were doing the most intense testing. We would have COVID shutdowns. I mean, you name it. It was really like we were trying to sort of ride the wave of all of it so carefully. So it was really, as you said, it was us making a show about sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the middle of the pandemic and really making sure that we were doing it in a way where we were being incredibly safe, incredibly responsible, protecting every member of our cast and crew, but also not compromising the integrity of the show. I mean, the back half, which Nzinga directed, the scale of that is so massive. So we didn't want to compromise. We didn't want to shrink the show. We wanted to do everything that we dreamed of. And, you know, I really feel like our studio and our creative team on this just never compromised. You know, we really pulled it off. And I feel, you know, I feel so proud of what we did. But I do think when you think about what was the hardest thing and the biggest challenge, it was just not shrinking the scale, being true to what the story wanted to be, being true to Taylor's vision and to ours, despite many obstacles. And I feel very proud of what we accomplished.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'll take away from the show, and having watched it and then like rewatched it, obviously at times like for interviews and stuff, is that I think in a few years, if people check it out, they're not going to realize when it was, you know what I mean? Like they're not going to realize that you shot it during the pandemic, or it's going to hold up in that way. And I think that's like great, where it's like, doesn't feel like you were saying, it doesn't feel really compromised at all by any of the challenges that you had to do. And I think that is like really a testament to the work the whole team did in making it like kind of pay off.
Thank you. Well, I will also say, as you say this, just I have like an image popping into my mind of, you know, one of the things that we were able to do as we were working on post was have more people get together. So I just remember, I mean, the attention to detail and the determination to make it feel authentic and not make it feel like something where you could go, oh, that was clearly made in a moment where there were challenges. I remember when we were doing post, we wound up getting a huge group together and going into the parking lot. We had bins of Daisy Jones t-shirts that background had been wearing in Louisiana. And we got our whole post team and we got a whole group of new background actors. And we went into the parking lot and did a massive VFX shoot where we were playing the music and they were all dancing and singing as if they were the crowd so that we could sort of plug that in. I mean, from the very beginning with the prep and all of the amazing music that was done by Blake and Tony and Frankie and the entire team, all the way through the end, the visual effects and the mix. I just think there was such care taken to every little detail of this show. I think everybody loved it like we loved it, which is rare and exceptional and really incredible. And I think it shows in the final product.
Yeah, definitely. What you mentioned, the music, obviously it's incredible. What is your can you pick a favorite of the Aurora songs, I guess, or like what would you say?
Well, it's really hard to do it. It's kind of like saying which kid do you love the most, yes. But I will answer the question because it's a good question. If you said that I had to choose one, I think it would be Let Me Down Easy, which I just have loved from the moment that I heard it. I loved it so much. And then we were very excited that Demi Lovato actually wanted to do a version of it, which they just released last week. And just hearing that song kind of live on and have new iterations, it's very exciting. It was incredible to hear Riley and Sam and the band perform all of these songs. And then it's like incredible to know that other people are really connecting and saying, hey, I'd love to try and do my version of it. What an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's great. I love the album. I have it on. I play it all the time. I still listen to it. It's great.
Thank you so much.
But you mentioned like
me
Sam
too. Me too.
You mentioned Sam and Riley. Obviously, they're incredible in the show, and Camilla obviously a nominee as well this year. I mean, do you feel like I guess like do you feel like, yeah, like again, like not vindication, but like, are you happy that like the cast was recognized for obviously this hard work? And like, I've seen like, you know, the having to shut down for COVID, they were able to like really become musicians basically, especially in the case of like Sam, right? So like, and Riley too. So, and the whole band. So I guess like, how did it feel to know that the cast was also recognized, I guess?
I mean, I was like the proud mom. And Scott definitely was the proud dad. We were, the joke was that Scott and I were mom and dad and that Will Graham was uncle. Like we were all, you know, through the whole thing. We just, I mean, we feel so invested in everybody. And I think we got this unbelievable front row seat into how hard every single person worked. I mean, they put themselves into their roles so fully. And yes, I mean, exactly as you said, what happened during COVID, obviously it was the ultimate obstacle, but for them, you know, they had a lot of choices. They could have bailed on this. This was not an easy show to make. They did not bail. And in fact, they did the opposite. They really doubled down and they started working on, you know, for Riley and Sam, it was vocals and guitar. For every other member of the band, it was, if they were singing vocals, it was their vocals, but it was also the instruments that they were playing in the show. And they would do Zoom lessons throughout COVID and then also Zoom jam sessions together where they really became musicians. Their time separated from everybody else was really spent focusing. And I mean, I remember also Sam was very determined to change his physique to really become a 70s rock star. And when we were meant to go into production in April of 2020, he definitely had sort of a different, he was very muscular. He was coming off of a different production. And when COVID happened, I remember he went back to England and he would run every day. He was on the Peloton. He would put his kids to sleep and then he would do his lessons on Zoom for guitar and singing. And I know Riley was doing the very same. I mean, when we met her, she talked about the fact that really her singing was mostly in the shower. And she knew that she had the genes for it, but that she had never actually trained as a singer. And she spent so much time working on her songs and refining her voice. I mean, I remember when she auditioned, Lake Mills was like, listen, there's something extraordinary there. And he said, there's such a unique and distinctive sound. And now we need to just work with her and train her. And she really committed to doing that. And I think, you know, every single one of these actors really immersed themselves fully. I would be remiss if I did not mention Cammie, who just the fact that Riley and Cammie are first-time nominees, they just worked so hard on this. You know, they really connected to their characters in the book. Both of them came in and talked about the book in their auditions and how in love with their characters they were and how in love with the book they were. And I think that was, I mean, their talent was obviously the main ingredient, but their passion for playing the roles that they were playing, I think actually just really sort of put them at a whole other level. And I think it's so wonderful that their work was acknowledged and they got these nominations.
Definitely. And I guess like you mentioned, like it feels like I've seen you talk about maybe doing a concert with the cast whenever, like when the strikes are over, fingers crossed or whatever. And even also, I know you guys have teased like, would there be a second, like more of this to come, which I'm sure you can't mention or talk about really, but I guess like, what do you hope if nothing else happens? I guess, would you be satisfied with, if it was just Daisy Jones, you'd be satisfied? Or like, are you hoping to get those other things off the ground, let's say?
Well, I will say to you, there have been no conversations about another season because the strike happened right on the heels of the show launching. So definitely no conversations. I do feel like it would be all of our dream to get to be together again and continue telling the story for a bunch of reasons. But I think from interviewing so many people as you have, you can tell that we really love each other. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that it was sort of, we always, you know, I remember being in New Orleans and it's like, those were the best nights of our lives, you know, shooting from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. and standing there and hearing the band performing. I mean, what an amazing time it was for all of us to sort of be together. You know, that was a dream. I hope we get to do it again. And then just in terms of the, you know, all of the other ingredients in terms of the album is a dream come true. Hearing the band perform would be the ultimate dream come true live. So we've been trying to do it. It's been challenging. I will say, you know, having a group of actors who have become musicians is incredible, but they definitely are actors first. And I know that, and we all know that. And so I think when they had acting commitments, it was really hard to get everyone together. And then when SAG went on strike, that then made it hard. We did maybe have a little bit of a plan to do something. And obviously that didn't feel quite right given the circumstances. But I will say, I think it's a very all for one and one for all sort of circumstance where we want everybody to be able to be together if and when they perform. And I hope that when the strike is over, there is a great time for that, because I think I would certainly love to see them perform again. I feel like it's not fair that such a small group of us got to see them perform live. I feel like it would be great for all the fans to have the opportunity to see it. So I'm working hard to make it happen. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
It'd be great. As a fan of the music, it would be very cool to see them all connect. We have to wrap up there, but Lauren Neustadter, an Emmy nominee for Daisy Jones and the Six. Great year for Hello Sunshine. Obviously, had Tiny Beautiful Things, and the last thing you told me as well. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.